Hi everyone, it's Alex from Risk Academy, and this is the second part in the 5-part series associated with being devil's advocate. In the previous video I talked about the need to have data. To play a role of devil's advocate, risk managers really need to make connections, make processes to get data information into the business unit, into the risk business unit, so they have enough ammunition to provide an alternative point of view. And today I wanted to talk about the second thing that risk managers need to have in place, and that's tools. They need tools to process that data. Sounds obvious enough, but most tools that risk managers are using today are not good enough. And unfortunately, with the upcoming COSO guidance and some other publications around, it looks like what some people think is the future of risk management is not helping us either. It's all going in the completely wrong direction. So those are the tools that I think we have, and I'll explain why they don't work, and I'll also talk about the tools that we should be using instead. Most of the traditional risk management tools help you understand how significant is risk. And most of them treat risks in terms of risk level. Is it significant, high, low, medium? What's the value at risk? What's the risk quantification number? Now, most of the modern day tools are really targeting risk as if it was the subject of our analysis. And I think this is the gravest mistake a risk manager can make. The biggest mistake a risk manager can make is to, for a second, think that risk is the ultimate objective. Understanding what the level of risk is the ultimate objective. I think that is the biggest mistake anyone in the profession can possibly make. Because once you say that I want to play devil's advocate role, I want to contribute something useful to the discussion around some key decisions that are being made by the organization, then you need to switch from the tools that talk about risks, because no one cares except the risk manager and maybe internal audit. Nobody cares about what the risk levels are. You need to switch to the tools that help you shape decisions, that translate that risk messages into something that is actually meaningful for the business. And those tools have been used since 1940s, some of them since 1960s. And I still, every single video I keep repeating this, I think that is ridiculous that not every single risk manager in non-financial company is using those tools. And those tools are very simple. They either sensitivity analysis, so you try and figure out how does a risk that you feel is important impacts on a particular decision. Scenario analysis, where you take a combination of risks and you test different scenarios and you see how do they impact on the decision at hand, or a process at hand, or a business activity, or really anything that is important for the business, the strategy, the budget, or the schedule, or anything else for that matter. Or Monte Carlo simulation, when you automate your scenario analysis, you use slightly more variables, you give it more sort of range, and you test not 2, 3, or 1,000, but thousands of scenarios to give a distribution of the outcomes. So the future may, based on assumptions that management made, the future may look like this. And then come back to your devil's advocate saying, this proposal is great, but with the risk analysis there's only 3% chance of it happening. Are you happy with that probability? Or do we need to reassess some of the management assumptions? Is that enough for us to rethink some of the components of that key decision? And then the final tool that is useful is called decision trees. And they're absolutely amazing. Right now we're doing a huge project for one of the telecom companies and trying to analyze the risks associated with IP and protecting IP. And decision trees are just mind-blowingly useful. They tell you, well, those are the possible scenarios, or this is how the situation may evolve, and this is the risk level as a result of that. This is the impact the risks will have on your decision as a result. Are you happy with those scenarios? Are you happy with those outcomes? Are you happy with those ranges? So there are at least 4 tools, all of which are older than 50 years old. I'm not 100% sure about decision trees, but the rest have been around for ages, for decades, and there's really no excuse why risk managers are not using them. So stop, if you want to play devil's advocate, stop using tools that tell you the risk level, the risk profile. Just because you're saying something is high risk, no one cares. You need to be switching your conversation to something that is meaningful to business. So you need to be saying, with risks, this schedule looks unrealistic. There's only about 10% of meeting the schedule, and there's a significant risk, 95%, that the schedule will be overspent or more time will be required by like 6 months. You need to start talking business language. Or you're saying this budget is wonderful, but there is a 40% chance that we will overspend that budget by $1 billion, and there is only a 3% chance that we will come in under budget. Again, I'm just randomly making up things, but I hope that you get the idea. There are plenty of tools that help you switch from a risk conversation to a business conversation with risks in mind. And to be devil's advocate, when you come to the meeting, when you propose an alternative point of view, you need to be able to bring those tools with you. You need to be saying, this looks like a wonderful investment, but unless you rethink some of the assumptions that you are making, there is a very high probability that this investment will not be successful, or the value of that investment will drop significantly. And this is how much the value may drop if you don't rethink some of the management assumptions that you've made. So the second thing that I wanted to share as part of this sort of message of devil's advocate is tools. Risk managers need to start using proper tools that don't talk about risks. They talk about the effect of uncertainty on business objectives, on decisions, on key parameters. For example, even in investments, it's not good enough reporting we have 3 high risk investments. It's much better linking that risk analysis to what matters to IRRs or NPVs and saying we have NPV at risk, which is 10% lower than what management estimates, and then use that to give ammunition, give alternatives to the management who are making the decisions. Now that, I think, is a useful devil's advocate role. What do you think? Share underneath this video in the comments section. For me, for now, thank you and goodbye.